يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان ظلوما جهولا ليعذب الله المنافقين والمنافقات والمشركين والمشركات ويتوب الله على المؤمنين والمؤمنات وكان الله غفورا رحيما.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Salatu, please bless our noble prophet, his household, and all his followers till the end of time. Alhamdulillah for the gift of life to sing today again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Falilat Olubumi Alabi, and I'm delighted to welcome you to tonight's episode of My UK OU Believe, the online program of Old Kent Road Mosque. Today is our 110th episode, and it's a special episode to us. So we're gracing it with special discussion, panel of discussion. So we're going to discuss issues that are close to our hearts in the community. So please stay tuned and invite your family, friends, invite everyone to join and share this goodness with you. Follow us on all our social media, Twitter, Facebook, and share the program so that people can, come on board. First, the announcements. So we have the Know Your Portion, the health program that we normally do. Is back now. So every Friday at 3:30 p.m., 3 p.m., that's between 3 and 4 p.m. every Friday, we call the program Know Your Portion. It's a health and well-being program where you are able to know the portion that you should take health-wise. And it comes up again every last Sunday of the month. Also, for those that attended the last Walima program, you can still order your magazine and professional pictures from the head of Marcus. But thank you for all the donations you've made so far. But please, if you have pledged, please redeem your pledge. That'll make it easy for all of us. Also, remember to enroll your kids in Marcus. There is no age that is too early or too late to learn the Quran. May Allah help all of us and make it beneficial knowledge for all of us. So before I go further, I would like to call on one of the pupils of the Markaz to please open the floor by giving us the recitation from the Holy Quran. May I call on Fatima Akinyemi? Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام.
Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان ألا تطغوا في الميزان وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تؤسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان صدق الله العظيم.
Allahu Akbar. Jazakumullah khairan for the beautiful recitation, Fatima. May Allah bless you and your parents for giving you this knowledge. Now, moving on, we have a special program. Man Youth is known for the special and popular youth summer camp that we always have every year. So this year is between 20th and 23rd of August. Please contact the Secretariat of the Man Youth Amir so that you can get all the information so that your ward will not miss this experience. So I'll now hand you over to our father, the moderator, Professor Mashood Badirin. So please continue with the program.
Jazakumullah khaira jaza, Laja Fadila, for signing us off. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. I'm also really pleased to welcome all our listeners and our viewers from everywhere to this edition of O Ye Who Believe. As Alaja Fadila mentioned, we are having a very special discussion today. We have a panel of discussants. If we remember, last week we had a panel of discussion of our youth, looking at one of the problems which is rampant in our society generally, that is, knife crimes. And we did have a very vibrant discussion. If we remember, one thing that, one reference that came on severally during the discussion last week was references to parenting, the need for good parenting as a means of curbing this problem of knife crimes in society. So today, inshallah ta'ala, we have put in together a panel of our mothers and fathers, some of our mothers and fathers within our society who are committed Muslims, who are also parents and grandparents actually, who have raised good children within our community, to have a discussion about, good parenting in Islam, that is Muslim parenting as a means to responsible youth. So I'm really very pleased to be introducing our panel of discussants today. We have on the panel our mother, Alaja Mujida Mebude. She's very, very well known within our community. She's a mother, she's a grandmother, and she's also an educationist. So she sees, she knows about youth affairs, both, in relation to youth in education, and also as a parent and grandparent herself. She's also, one of the leaders of, the FOMWA UK, the formidable Muslim women's organization within our community. The second person I will be introducing is one of our mothers as well, Hajia Mulkat Ibrahim, Malika, I call her Malika Yashams. She's also a very committed mother, and she also does a lot of work that relates to youth issues. She has been also contributing to some of the discussions we have been having on this program. And also behind the scene, she's one of the leading personnel making this program possible. So that's the second speaker. Then apart from our two mothers, we also have two of our fathers and also scholars within the community. The first person I'll be introducing is Imam Qasim Abdul Fattah Agbedemuke, who is, the deputy imam of the Old Kent Road Mosque and Islamic Cultural Center. He's also a father, he's a scholar, and he is also a teacher. He also, he's also involved in issues relating to youth. He has also raised good children. So he'll be speaking from the perspective of Islam and also practical experience. And finally, I have Dr. Dawood Hamza. Dr. Dawood Hamza is also a parent, he's also a grandparent, and he's also a scholar in that regard, also very versatile in relation to youth affairs. So we have a very rich panel today, inshallah, and we'll be discussing generally, as I said, Muslim parenting for responsible youth. We'll be covering, it's going to be a general discussion. I'll be covering quite a number of issues. And we know there are a lot of parents in house. We have a lot of parents in house. Feel free, inshallah, to make contributions, because this is a very, very complex issue. And different experiences can be derived from as we go on. So I welcome all members of our panel, Alaja Mebude, Alaja Mulkat Ibrahim, Deputy Imam Qasim, and Dr. Hamza Dawood. You are most welcome. May Allah reward you. May Allah accept this as an act of ibadah for every one of you. And all the time you spend here, may Allah put it in your mizan al-khair, inshallah. Now, for us to start, we all know that, parenting is a big responsibility, and this does not derive from what we learn from modern times. If we look within the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's a tradition that every one of us know, and we do refer to all the time. The Prophet said, "Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyatihi," that you are all shepherds, and every one of you will be asked about your sheep. And the Prophet went on to talk gradually about, including parents, mothers. It talks about mothers, fathers being, shepherds of their children. And Allah will ask us about how we raise them, because children, when they come into the world, they are born on fitra, they are innocent, until perhaps, maybe we direct them in one way or the other. So it's a very, very big issue. And we have various verses of the Quran, in relation to family parenting. The Quran says, "Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa alaykum nar." Oh, you who believe, save yourself and your family members from hellfire. And many of these issues we are talking about, knife crime, all the bad behaviors, behaviors actually, if they are not curbed, can lead somebody to hellfire in the hereafter. So, it has a very serious religious, connotation. Now, therefore, to start off, let me start with Alaja Mebude. We know, parenting is a very, very big responsibility. Now, from your own experience, do you feel that, well, all Muslims know the importance of this? And do you think that people do take it as serious as it should be? Because it's a responsibility, and Allah will ask us about it on Yom Al-Qiyamah. And if not, how can we make people to really be aware and also stand up to these responsibilities? Alaja Mujida. Alaja Mujida, yeah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي آمين. My brothers and sisters, my respected scholars, mothers and fathers on this program, I greet you with the best of greeting by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And Jazakumullah khaira for inviting me to this program. I was part of it last week, but I chose not to speak. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. The question that you asked, Prof, is a very big question. It's a very daunting question to all parents globally, not just in the UK, not just in the West, but globally, especially when we're talking about Islam. I'm going to say no to that question. It isn't all parents that knows how to be a good parent. And being a good parent is not something that is taught. It's something that is acquired, whether through experience, whether through wisdom, or whether through knowledge, seeking knowledge, which is very key in Islam. And Islam says we have to seek knowledge from cradle to grave. Part of seeking knowledge is parenting. And it's shocking that a lot of parents don't seek knowledge. So clearly, it makes it difficult in the home to look after the children, to put them in the right direction, to actually nurture them as they should be nurtured. There are many verses in the Quran and there are hadiths that talks about parenting. It's an amana. Parenting is an amana. Children were not, didn't ask to be born. We brought them to this world. So for bringing them to the world is a very big responsibility on parents to parent their child, to give them good upbringing. And how do you do this? There are many ways of being good parents that I cannot enumerate here. But firstly, you need to lead by example.
Yes, inshallah, Elijah will be coming to that. Bismillah. I mean, you've addressed the first question that, well, unfortunately, most parents do not take this responsibility. We'll be coming to, the point you wanted to start to raise. Now, let me go to, Dr. Hamza to ask. Dr. Hamza, from a father's point of view, from a male perspective, Elijah, answer the question by saying that no. And there's evidence out there that not all Muslim parents, sadly, take this seriously or know or learn about this. But why is it so? Why is it so? And she did mention that children were not asked to be born. We bring them, but why would you bring a child into the world and then, not fulfill the responsibility? Why do you think this is so?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I thank the platform for asking me to be part of the program today, and I pray that Allah will continue to promote this platform further. Now, as to the question, parenting is essentially a responsibility. If you look at the Quran from the beginning to the end, when the Quran is talking about children, the word the Quran adopts is hibba, that is gift. So, and if you look at interpretation of the scholars, when you are bestowed with a gift, so you have to appreciate the gift. How do you then appreciate the gift of Allah? So number one, we have to recognize that this gift is a trust. And if you look at the hadith of the Prophet, when Allah, the trust is a responsibility that Allah will ask us about. And in that case, we ask the question, how people are shining away from this responsibility? There are many factors to this. Number one, I can quickly remember now, is the problem of modernity. Modernity. So people, before now, there is nothing like globalizations. So everybody is living in his community, in his nuclear community, local community, and everybody is bringing up his children according to the norms of those communities. Where you have Muslim community, they try to bring their children up according to the Quran and Sunnah, and even their own local tradition. and there was peace all over the world. Now, when the world began to go to modernization, globalizations, then strange ideas come to the life of and then all polluted, and even the iman, the level of iman is now diminishing. That is one aspect. Another aspect is love of materialism. The love of materialism is now very endemic, and it's part of the modernism we are talking about. Everybody is pursuing materialism. So we want to bring children to the world, but at the same time, we are mistakenly thinking that when we bring the children to the world, we have to provide for them. This provision for them goes to the point of building houses for them, buying cars for them, but you cannot, you can only take care of the present. Allah takes out of the future. And as a result of that,
thank you very much. I mean, Doctor, I mean, you mentioned two important points, modernity, materialism, and we are all caught in it. I mean, we are all caught in it. Now, how do we regulate that? Let me bring, I mean, Haja Mulkat in. What's your perspective on this, Haja Mulkat, in relation to parents shirking their responsibilities?
Jazakallah khairan for having me. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam.
Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. This is a very big question, a very challenging times. I just want to say that I'm here in the capacity of a parent who is still learning on how to teach my children, because it's a learning that, like any other institution, parenting is something that we don't know overnight. If we take it each day at a time, we'd wonder how did we get here? But I want to say that, first of all, I want to acknowledge the parents that are out there and say thank you, because it's not an easy thing. And whatever the outcome of our children's right now, whatever they might be that is unpleasant, it is not the intention of that parent. Because every parent loves their children. That is why they nurture the children. They don't let them have any instruments or things that could have injured them when they were little. It is from that care. That's how they have nurtured us. So whatever the children are right now, I believe, and this is my perception, that it's not the intention of those parents. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant every parent succor where they need it. And then I want to first of all also dispel the finger pointing, the label that perhaps maybe, for instance, when women who, where a child is not well raised, the fault of the mother or the fault of the father, you know, anything can happen. So we need to change that narration. But I want to say, list the following. There's been a breakdown, Prof, in the family structure and collective responsibility that we have in the in the community. And this is not about where we come from. We see it in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If before the Quran was revealed, when his father passed on, his care after his mother died passed on to his grandfather. And from the grandfather, it went straight to his uncle. So we have family responsibility. It's all there, but we have all fallen short of that. We are not even aware. So it's the lack of awareness, first of all, for me, Prof, that we are not aware. If we go back and dust our books, you know, Allah says, and it's not funny, it's not a mistake that it is Iqra. We can read books about how to raise children, how they are in their primary, you know, in their first stage, second stage, and then link it to the 777 that we're all familiar with. And we see that children need different needs at different times. You won't wear a diaper for a child who is 3, for instance, or you will not be breastfeeding a child who is 4. So there are different things at different times that if we follow, if we bring the awareness back on the table, we'll be able to do much, much more better than we are doing. The next one is overindulgence and negligence of our duties. And I don't know, maybe later I'll elaborate on this.
Inshallah.
Yeah. Okay, inshallah.
I mean, it's an important point you raised. I mean, and I agree with you that, I mean, we need to put in that caveat. You know, we are not finger pointing or labeling. It's a learning process, as you rightly mentioned, as everyone has mentioned. Parenting is a very big responsibility, and as it's a hands-on thing. You continue to learn. You make mistakes, then you learn. You make mistakes, then you learn. So it's a good point you raise. Let me go to our deputy Imam, Imam Abdul Fattah Gbedemuke, to bring his perspectives, I mean, on this. why now, duties of parenting has been so much, lacking in society.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. I really thank the organizer for giving me the opportunity to preach on this platform, especially on the issue of parenting. I will just first of all echo the ayah of the Quran that our father mentioned in the beginning. That's from Quran 66, Surah Al-Tarim, verse, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Ba'da a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara." You who believe, save yourself and your family from hellfire. Yourself and your family, your wife and the children. How are you going to save them? This should be the basis of parenting in Islamic perspective. How are you going to prepare our children for this world, to meet the challenges of this world? Likewise, how to prepare them for the hereafter. We all listen to the hadith of Rasulullah, common hadith that we know listen. That is, when we die, when we leave this world, whoever has a pious child or children, their responsibility to pray for the parents in order to still gain the credits from Allah subhanahu. But today, we find many of the parents wanting. Some parents may have a lot of things in terms of wealth, in terms of being affluent or important personality in the world. But immediately they fail to do their duty and responsibility that Allah has given to them. They have problem in the community, they have problem in the society. And this is what is very obvious in everywhere we have. Before we go, let me take an example. When I was teaching in government college, some parents are living abroad. They send a lot of things in terms of materials been mentioned by Dr. Amsa to many of their children that come back. But these children, they are a lack of parenting. The parents do not have enough time for them. They don't have access to them. You find them taking gun. So after the assembly, we need to run after them in the bushes. Having gun, how do they get the money? It means parents are fail duty upon their children. That is why this ayah is a wake-up call. Every parent and in order to perform the
Jazakumullahu khairan jaza. Thank you so much. Very, very important point. A lot of the time people think, well, I'm doing everything for my child. I put him in the best school. I send him money all the time. He doesn't lack. But does that mean parenting, as you rightly mentioned? That does not really mean parenting. Jazakumullahu khairan jaza. Now let's come to the practicalities. I want to come to practicalities now in relation to values. As we are looking at it from an Islamic point of view, I will take it one by one. So that it becomes really clear. Values, what are the values of Islam actually that can lead to, that we can inculcate in our children, that can lead to them being responsible as they grow up? Dr. Kolade, I don't know whether, many of us know, he used to be the director of the NTA, in Nigeria. He was talking about the fact, not only even in Nigeria, there are a lot of problems. And he indicated that, look, he also talked about parents. He said, things are really, really very, very bad now. He said, well, during their own time, when they were growing up, their parents had inculcated certain values in them, which made them to appreciate the fact that this thing is not bad. I must not do it. If I do it, I know what the consequences is going to be in relation to myself, in society, and in the eyes of the people. But he says today, he talked about values, discipline. He says values, discipline, all these are no longer in society. And this is what is creating problem. Now, in that context, I mean, we are talking about Muslim parenting. Malika, let me start with you. Would you want to select one important value of Islam, which perhaps, you know, we can put our hands on and say that, well, if we, and how we can inculcate that in our children, which will help them to be responsible from now into the future? Bismillah. You are muted.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much. One of the values I want to talk about is truthfulness. You know, we need to be truthful with our children because we need to mirror that. They see us all the time. They spend time with us. None of us can, I just want to say that, Prof, if I was to ask you if you can put a cost to how much your father spent on you, would you be able to tell me?
Never.
Yeah, but you remember, what you remember of your father and or maybe of your parents is the time they spent with you and the things you did together, whether they were disciplining you or they were guiding you. So it is what we need to learn to be truthful, because everything about our creation and about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is haq. You say, what tawasaw bil haq, and then what tawasaw bil sabr. So if we take the truth in everything they do, it's very, very important. And this can be expanded to different, you know, if we can, this can go on and on. If we begin to deal with the truth in our lives, in our living, in our earnings, in our interactions, with our neighbors, with our spouses, in our places of work, in the things we bring home, in the things we say about our friends, in the things we say on the telephone, in the things we watch, and in the things we discuss with our children, in the laws of the land and how we maintain those laws and the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I would take truthfulness as one of the primary values that we need to work with. And taking it back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we refer everything back to him. He was known as Al-Amin, the one who was honest or truthful before why he started. So it's a very, very important value. We must have good behavior because that is what we need to mirror. And that's what prophets before. Anabi Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, that is why he could tell his son, my Lord has revealed this to me. And the son said, let's go on, Daddy. That is because of the way the father has lived. So we must, if we all try to follow the footsteps of the prophet, then we'll say, I have done my best. That's why my children will behave in this way.
Jazakumullah khairan jaza. And it's a very good, important value to start upon. That is truthfulness. And you did mention the fact that it's not only about telling, but also mirroring it, demonstrating it. You don't tell your wife, your children to be truthful while they see you lying. I mean, you know, when you said that, it really quickly struck my mind. You know, there's a tradition of the prophet, we all know it, whereby somebody came into Islam newly. He had so many vices that he was performing even before Islam. And the prophet, I mean, didn't want to overwhelm him. He said, you have come into Islam, of all the vices, you lie, you steal, you do this, just give me one. Tell me one thing, one thing that you will give away. And the Sahaba were surprised that, I mean, what will only one thing do out of all the evil that this person does? And the hadith indicated that he said that, well, he will never tell lies again. Now, by not telling lies, you know, he was able to drop, because, I mean, all the other things, because if he does any bad thing, he cannot come to the prophet and lie that he have not done it. So by being truthful, it's helping to drop all the other evil things that he was doing. So truthfulness is really very, very important. Jazakumullahu khairan jaza. And I believe our parents are listening. We are all listening. And we can reflect about this also in our lives. Ourselves, are we truthful in everything that we do? So that we can mirror it to our parents, to our children. Alaja Mebude, I mean, I don't know which of the values you want to now also reflect us upon.
Alhamdulillah Hadab is very important in Islam. I repeat, hadab. Nínú Yorùbá náà, mo mọ̀ pé àwọn àgbàlagbà tó tún ṣe bí òwe, wọ́n máa ń sọ pé ìwà rere lẹ̀ṣọ́ ènìyàn. Ó dẹ̀ wà nínú Al-Qur'an. We should teach our children good manners. Good manners leads to many things. Good manners leads to positive parenting rather than negative parenting. When we inculcate good manners with our children at home, it will radiate outside of the house because you've set rules.
You've set boundaries. You've taught them how to be humble. You've taught them humility. You've taught them how to be truthful, like my sister rightly said. But manners inculcate a lot in Islam. When you have good manners, it radiates in every sphere of your lives. Everything that you do, people will notice you with good manners. And it will follow you through in what you do. When you have good manners, you will not steal. When you have good manners, you will not commit crime, because your conscience will always break you. If my parents should catch me doing this, how would they feel? That is you having the consciousness. That is you having the adab of Islam in you to behave well wherever you go. A child that has got good manners from home, that the parents have already enshrined it in him, will not go out and deface his family with bad attitude. Okay, there are peer pressures. Everywhere you go, you have peer pressure. But a good child will know how to withdraw him or herself from bad behavior, from being found wanting in every sphere of life. So adab is very important to me, going with humility and humbleness.
Jazakumullah khaira jaza. You know, adab cannot be overemphasized. That is, good manners. It cannot be overemphasized. You know, incidentally, you know, when we talk about adab in Arabic, you know, in schools, when we talk about adab means arts, you know, as a subject. It means arts, and it also means behavior, how you behave. And, you know, arts relates to performance. And also, you know, therefore, adab is very, very important. And as you rightly mentioned, Allah referred to the Prophet. Allah did not describe, one of the major descriptions that Allah talked about the Prophet in the Quran is that he has real good character. وَإِنَّكَ لَعَلَىٰ خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ. He said, oh, your character is so good. You have very good manners. So it's really, really very important. You know, and there is this saying, we all know it, which is usually related to one of the it's an English proverb, actually. They say it's MMM. It's the banner of one of the schools that I attended in early days. They say manners maketh man. They say manners maketh man. You know, it is manners that actually makes us human. If you don't have manners, then, you know, it takes you out of the society as a good person. Jazakumullah khairan jaza. Adab and adab. Okay, let me come to Deputy Imam to address one value which perhaps we can inculcate in our children. Bismillah. Deputy.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The intended value is that of respecting one parents and others. Respecting parents and others. From the beginning, we need to make our children realize the significance of parents in our life. And this is based on the verse of the Quran, many verses of the Quran. Even when Luqman, the wise, intend to advise his own parents, his own children, or his own child rather, he starts straight from you to know the significance of parents in our life. Even Allah make it clear in a separate verse of the Quran, Surah Al-Israel, where Allah make it clear, after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your parent, you need to give them the allotted respect. Do not look down upon them. Give them what they deserve. With this will be transferred to other parents or elderly people, even the males in the community. So that respect should be there. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَعَبُدُ اللَّهَ فَقَدَّ رَبُّكَ عَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your parent, do not look back upon them. Whatever you become in your life, know your humble beginning started from your parents. You need to let them respect their parents, and this will be even the value for their parents to be us. That's their respect. The parent extended to all other people in the society.
Jazakumullahu khairan jaza. I mean, that's really, really very deep, as Alaja Mibude will normally say. You know, it's really, really very, very deep. When we talk about, you know, it's not about parents wanting to accrue authority to themselves. But if we teach our children to respect their parents, what it translates into is teaching the child to respect constituted authority. You know, as the Deputy Imam mentioned, it will extend to, respecting constituted authority. And also, you know, it will actually be a check on the child. You know, a lot of the time when we talk to our parents and when we talk to our children, when they are going out or maybe when they are going abroad, what I remember my parents, you know, when we were going to school, going back to the that is, you know, remember the son of whom you are. That is, make sure that you don't spoil our name. You have to respect us. And that will be a check on you, you know, because you respect your parents. You don't want to do anything which will lead to, you know, bad information about yourself getting back to your parents. So respect of parents is really, really an important value. And it is not about, you know, self-aggrandizement, but it's about training the child to respect, constituted authority. Jazakumullahu khairan jaza. Now, finally, let me come to Dr. Dawood Hamza regarding, one important value you want to highlight for us this evening. You are muted, please.
Thank you very much. Okay. If you will permit, I'm not muted.
Yes, okay, go on, please.
Yes, if permit me to quickly observe one important point, that is the question of fitrat in Islam. Yeah. In Islamic theory of children upbringing, fitrat is very, very important. This is where the Prophet told us that all human beings are created on clean slates. That is, the educationists will call it tabula rasa. So the Prophet said, "Kullu mawlud yulad ala fitra." So when a child is brought to this world, it's clean. Now, whatever paint we put on that clean slate is what we reflect on that child. That is where the issue of value comes in now. So the first important value that I think is knowledge of Allah. That is, we must try to let children know Allah first. Then, after knowing Allah, then we prepare them to observe the event of America. I was asking them about the issue of freedom and human rights. And I asked them, do you know that there is a rider to that particular issue of freedom and right? They asked me, what is the rider? I said, Allah is the originator of your life. Your mom, your dad are brought to the world, then your mom and dad brought you to this world for coming to this world. In that case, the question that follows is that, who brought me to this world? If Allah is the one that's responsible for your coming to this world, first of all, you must ask the question, who is this Allah? So if you know Allah, then follow his commandment. Then after that, another important value is the question of love, care, and kindness. So anybody want to bring up a child, he must show love, care, and kindness. And this will reflect in the life of the child right from the childhood. If a child that is brought up with love, care, and kindness, you see that it is different from all other children outside. Then lastly is the question of being model, and then after that the question of dua. So let us the principle of dua is very, very important. One of the Imam of the Haram told us in one of his stories that when he was very young, anytime he misbehaved, his mom will say, "Get away, this boy. Allah will make you an Imam of Haram," and Allah accepted this prayer. So he was now relating that particular experience to his audience. So
Jazakumullahu khairan jaza. Now, Jazakumullahu khairan jaza. I mean, the Yorubas will say, "Ìbẹ̀rù Ọlọ́run ó ní ìpilẹ̀ṣẹ̀ ọgbọ́n." You know, Rasul Hikmah, Makhafatullah, that is the pinnacle of wisdom is the fear of Allah. Now, you see, many of these values that we are talking about, most societies or most civilizations, whether we have similar values, we have it. I mean, respect parents, do this. As I talked about, I mean, the Yoruba values that, I mean, Dr. Koladi was mentioning on telly. Now, but you know, what makes the fear of Allah or making children conscious of Allah is that I think last week when we're discussing, I mean, I think it was, I mean, Elijah Mulka, who did mention as well, we need to pray because our children, we don't know what they do. They might be saying something in our presence. When they leave us, we don't know what they do outside. Now, a child who is brought up with Allah's consciousness, you know, will know that Allah follows them everywhere. And therefore, you know, their act, whether they are with their parents or their parents are not there, they know that Allah sees them. So this is the importance of the fear of Allah, trying to instill the fear of Allah into our children. So those 4 values that our mothers and fathers have mentioned are really, really very, very important. Truthfulness, you know, we should teach our children truthfulness and demonstrate it ourselves. You know, good character, good manners, as Elijah Mebude did mention, and also, I mean, respect to parents, as I mean, Deputy Imam mentioned, and then the fear of Allah. I mean, if we hold these 4 values strongly and try to inculcate it in our children and also demonstrate it, I believe, I mean, many of the problems that we are facing today, perhaps, I mean, we'll be able to resolve them. Now, let us come to another issue. We are not saints, you know, and our children are themselves not saints. But I mean, Yorubas will say that Areni koshelu kokun. A lot of the time we love our children. We love our children a lot. To the extent that, I mean, we want to protect them all the time. I mean, we see it all the time. You know, sometimes issues happen. You know, maybe a parent heard the fact that, well, your children have done this. The first reaction is you want to protect the child. You want to defend. So don't let me say protect. We always want to defend our children, you know, in relation to, I mean, no. It's not my child doesn't do that and things like that. Now, I mean, in relation to Islam, yes, we have to protect our children. But is it the case that, well, we have to defend our children all the time, whether they are right or wrong? I mean, let me start with Elijah Mebude on this one.
Alhamdulillah. Another very good question, Prof. I don't believe in defending children to the core. And it's amongst to the core values that we've talked about as well. If our children do something bad, let's call a spade as a parent and tell them, you've gone wrong, you've done wrong, what you've done is bad. It doesn't necessarily mean telling them more, mean we don't love them. Well, if we're not firm as a parent, if we're not articulate, if we cannot stand on ourselves and say the truth to them, basically we're not teaching them good character. We're not actually teaching them how to stand up for themselves in the society or how to defend themselves if we keep on defending them. Children should be taught to be articulate, to be able to stand up and defend himself or herself. If they've done something bad, own up to it. If it's something good, alhamdulillah. All prophets have different problems. All the prophets of Allah, they went through different problems. I want to give an example of Prophet Yaqub, alayhi salam. Prophet Yaqub has good children and he has bad children. As great father as he is with insan, he has bad children, we know them, and he has good children. But he treats them with sabr jamil, beautiful patient. He doesn't defend them all the time. When they did something bad, when they brought the dirty shirts home with blood, he knew what they've done. He challenged them. Yaqub challenged the children. He didn't hide and say, oh, you've done well. He knew what they've done, but he challenged them with sabr jamil, with beautiful patience. Or we want to talk about Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salatu wasalam. and his dad, who is an idol worshiper. He challenges that, a young man who is a rebel. Ibrahim was a rebel. He challenged his dad, he challenged the community worshiping idol. That is being truthful. That is standing up for the truth, regardless of being a child or a parent. So all the prophets of Allah, they've got different case studies that we can attribute to, that we can think about. Going further by Ibrahim as well. When Ibrahim wants to collaborate with his son, he collaborated to build Kaaba. He didn't say he can build Kaaba on its own, but he wanted to show good character. He wanted his child to know how to be upright. He built Kaaba with his son. He showed cooperation. He showed collaboration. He didn't enforce, but he showed collaboration. He showed cooperation. He showed affection to his child. And so many other prophets of Allah with different challenges. So wherever our children are, whatever they do, we should learn to commend them if they do well, and if they do bad, we should be able to tell them off with Sabur Jamil.
Thank you so much. I mean, thank you so much. I mean, and also for those illustrations. I mean, I'm also really learning from those illustrations. They are really very relevant. May Allah reward you for bringing that in from the perspective of the different, patterns of activities of the prophets. Now, let me come to our deputy imam. Now, our children sometimes, can do something wrong. You know, I'm a teacher, and people sometimes do confront you and challenge you, especially in this. We are in modern times. You know, we were talking about. What do you call? Ahliya. You know, personal capacity. There's an hadith that we normally refer to in relation to when a person acquires personal capacity, when they reach the age of 10 years, age of discretion and things like that. And usually one of the hadith that we usually use as an example is the hadith of the Prophet. It says, when your child reaches the age of 7, you know, order them to pray. And when they reach the age of 10 and they do not pray, punish them. You know, we use this, we refer to this hadith, and there was one lady, an English lady in class, who said, punish them. You know, she was really taken aback in the context of, punish them, a child of 10 years. You know, how do you punish? She took the term punish them, you know, ta'vib. It's really very big. Now, sometimes our children need some sort of, discipline in relation to, and we know what, you know, and there's another tradition, even though it says quite weak, whereby, there should be, a whip at home, a horse whip should be hung at home. In order to threaten the child from doing bad things. Now, we know discipline is important. Deputy Imam, and you are a parent yourself, sometimes we need to put our feet down. Now, how do we handle this in relation to when our children, we don't want to defend them, want to put our feet down, put them on the right? How do we discipline our children? You know, in relation to that hadith, how do we punish or how do we discipline our children to put them back on the right? Do you want to refer to explore that for us?
Thank you for the questions. Basically, the scholar of Islam stated about 4 standard rights of the children to the parents. First of it is that making provisions and protection of our children, spiritually, emotionally, and morally, protect them from harm. That's the basic right dimension, according to this scholar. But now, anything that is not defendable, shouldn't defend it at all, as Muslims, to put things into the right places. A teacher is a trained and professional teacher. There is this measurement that we use. That is standard of punishment and reward. When a child does good things, we need to praise him or her for that. Also, when he does something that is wrong, we need to reproach the child, not necessarily beats, not physical punishment, we reproach. let him or her know that we are not happy with what he does or he does. Just the way, reproaching way, let them know that what he is not okay for us. So, but as Muslim, you try as much as possible to let the children differentiate between the right and wrong. When they do the wrong thing, let them know that it's wrong. Anything that is not defendable, Muslims should not defend it. That's it.
Jazakumullah khair jaza. Muslims should not fear reproaching their children. It's just the perspective. Haja Mulkat, discipline, you know, I know you are a disciplinarian to some extent in relation to, I'm talking about this in a general sense. Now, how would you address the issue of when our children go wrong? Some examples of ways by which we can really put them on the right for them to know that we are not happy, that this is not what you should do. How should we go about that? Because it's one important way. We talk about carrots and sticks, you know, I mean, in Islam, in English. I mean, in what ways can we, when children go wrong, to put them on the right way through discipline? Yes.
Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So the first thing I would like to say is communication. So for instance, if our child does something wrong, we should expect them, they are children, they're not perfect. Allah created us with weak substances. So we shouldn't expect perfection from our children. We expect children to make mistakes. We should expect the mistakes. We just feel that don't make fatal mistakes. So first of all is, for instance, if my child was to do something in school or anywhere, for instance, if it was outside the house, I'll first of all call my child. I'll listen to what the adult has said. Then I'll call my child and ask. Because you see, the Quran even says, those who know, those who do not know should ask those who know. We need to communicate. I ask my child, okay, can I hear your version of what happened? I'm not defending the child. I just want to hear, because you know this hologram, things have different perspectives. We need to listen to the child, because the way we deal with that issue can have long-term impact on all of us, the three people involved, our children, the teacher, the adults, and ourselves. So it could also be a learning point. For instance, I want to just quickly take about 2 examples from the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the young person came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, my parents have asked me to marry so-and-so, married me off to somebody. And she wanted to know that, okay, she likes the person, but she just wanted Rasulullah to know, she wanted to know whether she has a right to pick who she wanted. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam validated that, yes, you can say no if you didn't like the person. So that was, she took her case to Rasulullah. So we must give our children opportunity to hear their opinions or what they feel. Then another occasion was when a man said he wanted to go and have a relationship with a woman. He came to Rasulullah and Rasulullah asked him, what if that was this person in your family and it was done to this person? So it helps our children to think. We need to pick their interests. They are children. And that is why we are adults, to support them, to guide them in their thoughts. Then also, the Prophet's beloved daughter, Fatima radiallahu anha, she was working so hard. Her husband said, okay, go to your father for help, for some prisoners. And she came to her father, and her father said no in a very good way, but he gave her dua. So you find out that it's not everything our children need necessarily that we give them. No, we need to learn how to say no to our children without hurting us, because sometimes it can be very painful for a parent to say no to their child. But when you are teaching the child something, we learn to communicate in these different ways. So that is one aspect. So if the child has really done something wrong, going back to the teacher, if it's outside, I'll call my child and show my disappointment. First of all, I will ensure that my child apologizes for that behavior. I will tell the teacher that I didn't raise my child in that way in the presence of my child. Is very, very important. I will not be apologizing on behalf of my child, because I will not apologize for something they haven't done. It's not my responsibility. I will not take responsibility for it, but I'll be firm, and that's what I have done in my life, to tell the teachers I'm ready to work with you. We have to be behavior and schoolwork. I mean, it goes together. So, and I'll come back home, and my tone will show that I'm not happy with my child. I will ensure that my tone shows it, my behavior shows it, and I will withdraw something. It's a kind of punishment. I'll say, either you face the wall. You'll be amazed at how facing the wall can be very painful to children, depending on their age. I can withdraw a phone and say, you're not having your phone for a week, or you are meant to go on a holiday in the summer, that holiday is withdrawn. Because we have to, and when we tell our children that if you do this, you get this, we have to do it, even when it comes to punishment, so that they will not begin to belittle us and know that next time I'm going to behave in a certain way. And later I'll call them and go, okay, now tell me, what do you think about what happened? Do you want to reflect about it? What will you do differently? Even if you were in the wrong, somebody was in the wrong, your reaction was not too much, gauge it. So things that communication is very, 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 very key, sir. And we cannot afford So, because if we defend our children when we know they are wrong, because we don't know what will people say about us, the disservice we are doing is only to ourselves and not to the children themselves. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Jazakumullah khair jaza. So we can, discipline our children. It's not only about beating. You've given very many examples, even speaking to them, talking to them, communicating is part of withdrawing something and letting them know actually that we are not happy about this. It goes very, very far. Now, let me take, Dr. Hamza Dawood's, perspective on discipline, approaches to discipline.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, the family must observe the rule of justice. Allah say, "Inna Allaha ya'murukum bil adli wal ihsan." So the principle of justice is very, very important in the family. And from that, we go to the issue of communication that's rightly mentioned by Sister Malikas. You see, the two goes together in the family. If the head of the family uphold the principle of justice, then it requires him to communicate. If a child misbehaves, perhaps if you are asking questions and you look at his perspective, you may change your mind. So that is the importance of communications. Now, I don't know if you can allow me to talk about the extreme point of punishment, and that is the issue of corporal punishment, if there is any need for it at all. So it is a controversial issue. And if you look at the hadith mentioned by the professor now, that the Prophet talked about punishment. He said that when your child is 7, command him to pray.
Your connection.
Tell him to pray. But when it is 10, if he continues to, if he continues to shirk in his responsibility, then you beat him. So this particular hadith attracts controversy, and I don't want to talk about the position of the various countries in the world, in South Africa, Scotland, France, about corporal punishment by the parents, and there is no time to mention that. But you see, in the light of that particular hadith, the scholars, they have come out with a certain criteria. If for any reason a parent resorts to corporal punishment, time may not allow me to mention those criteria. But the important thing is that if you look at that hadith, the Prophet didn't talk about corporal punishment until after 10 years. Our children, when we are praying, when they are praying, you see that they copy what we are doing. Even sometimes they'll be riding on our back. So all these, they are undertaking the training for salat. So if somebody, if the child is under the training for 7 years, and then he's not praying, the Prophet said, okay, don't punish him. When he attains 10 years, no. So you can see the gap of 3 years between 7 and 10. Based on this particular hadith, the scholar came out with a certain criteria. Maybe we can go and search what are those criteria. And as I said, corporal punishment is the extreme point of the punishment. There are many ways that we can do punishment by denying them certain things, that's a certain right. So, but the important thing is that the principle of justice. Are we doing justice? Because these children, they are innocent. May Allah guide us right.
Jazakumullah khair jaza. Thank you so much for all your contributions. Time goes really, really very fast. It's a very, very interesting contribution. Now we have a brief interlude. Now, before we go for the interlude, I just want to sound you what we will come back to so that you can reflect over it. We are talking about parenting and the importance of it. A lot of the time, we emphasize a lot, we do emphasize, and all of us as parents, we have some sort of, self-entitlement that our children must be good to us. They must respect us. They must do this. They must do that. But there's an ayah in the Quran in which, Allah commands the child that we should pray for our parents. وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. that, oh Allah, bless my parents, you know, be good to my parents as they looked after me when I was young. So a lot of the time, that second part, you know, we don't look at it whether we are fulfilling our own responsibility. A lot of the time, we only look at the fact that, well, we are entitled for that our children should respect us. So we'll come back to look at those. I mean, that area now to see how things can be balanced together. So thank you so much. I mean, let's go for a brief interlude and we'll come back, I mean, to continue. Interlude, control room, please.
My parents chose to name me Old Kent Road Islamic and Cultural Center as a baby, and when the time came for me to start my family, my daughter was also named at this masjid.
Same as my story, I was also born and named there. I attended Maracas and used to play football after classes with my mates.
The Old Kent Road Mosque and Islamic Cultural Center, MAN UK, is a community where all Muslims enjoy the bond of brotherhood and the sweetness of sisterhood.
Old Kent Road Masjid has played an important role in my spiritual and social development and that of my young family.
It is a home, a place of solace for everyone, especially the Muslims of African descent living in London, United Kingdom.
This is a heritage we treasure and must preserve for the next generation. We need you to make this dream come true.
Kindly donate and encourage your family, friends, and loved ones to contribute towards the rebuilding of our mosque.
May Allah bless and reward you abundantly. Allahumma Amin.
Please help build our mosque.
Jazakumullah khaira jaza. Thank you so much. I mean, that clip reminds us about the big project in front of us. That is the MAN UK Old Kent Road Mosque and Islamic Cultural Center, which we are rebuilding. And we thank everyone who has been contributing, who has contributed. You see the structure, the first phase as it stands is being shown there now. I mean, look at it. Look at it. I mean, this is really impressive. And we thank Allah for helping us to this level. You know, we need to raise a lot more funds now. You know, at Ikorawasi, we are in the public, you know, domain now, and we need to complete this building. So as we thank those who have been contributing in charity and those who have been giving us, I mean, the free loan sort of Qadr Hassan, we thank you a lot. May Allah reward every one of us, both in this world and the hereafter. We should not get tired or feel tired. Please, let's continue donating towards this so that we can complete this project, you know, in the within the time set out for it, inshallah. I want to put us heads on, you know, this is just a general call that people should donate. Next week, inshallah, on All You Who Believe, you know, we will set time aside to call for real donation as we do from time to time. I don't want to take people by surprise. So please, I mean, our viewers and listeners, bear it in mind, inshallah ta'ala, you know, and prepare for it, inshallah. We'll be doing collection, call for donation funds for the mosque next week, inshallah. May Allah reward you as you prepare your mind for this. Now, the last topic we'll be looking at is, I mean, you know, life is reciprocating, it's reciprocity. You know, a lot of the time, as I said, parents have the mind of entitlement. You know, the Yorubas will say that, well, and the Englishman will say that you cannot reap from where you did not sow. You know, if you have not really sown something, you can't reap from it. You say you want good children, but you have not laid the foundation. And this is why the Quran is very beautiful. Allah says that when you pray, there's a prayer to Allah, say that Rabbi rahamhuma kama rabbayani sagira. Oh Allah, bless my parents as they looked after me when I was young. So if you did not look after your children, you may not expect, that type of prayer. Now, just with reference to this ayah, I want you to put, an understanding on it, and also a brief comment on that verse in relation to reciprocity. That is, we reap what we sow most of the time. So let me, start with, Deputy Imam, in that regard, to, reflect on this for us. Bismillah.
Thank you for calling me for that. Yeah, as you said, that's English, people say that respect is reciprocal. So as parents, first of all, we need to perform our role when we have the children. As a parent, as a father, do perform the fatherhood role. As a mother, the motherhood role, to do perform it when they are young or when they are children. If you are able to perform that successively, you'll be able to read when the children grow up or become adults. They will reciprocate the gesture that you did for them when they are young. That is why that prayer came. And that is why Rasulullah, this I mentioned earlier on, that if you bring your children up well, in a righteous way, to become a pious person, they will remember you when you leave this world. If you don't do that, how do you expect them? You don't tell their life the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned. How are you going? How are you going to reap this when you die? So, as a parent, father need to perform the fatherhood role. Likewise, the mother need to perform the motherhood role. All these are
each one of the parents, yes, should perform their roles. Shukran jazila. Malika, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Very good point, sir. The words of Allah are haq. But I just want to say that, yeah, it is what we sometimes reap that we sow. We have a lot of parents have in my work and experience damage their children. The children don't communicate with them. We take, the way we talk to our children, we take all self-worth away from the children and make them vulnerable in the sense that when they go out, they are bullied. And because they are bullied, sometimes these are the reasons for which they rebel. Yeah. And then they begin to seek attention. And then they begin to join gangs because they want to be identified. They want to have that validation that there's something. And this is what we must look at carefully. Sometimes we take the extreme end in the values. We teach our children, we emphasize money. They go to school, they go to the university, they become lawyers, they become engineers, they become accountants, they become this and that, and we leave all other aspects. We have broken children. We have children who carry trauma with them and in each stage of their life. And this trauma manifests in adulthood. There are parents today who will get the paycheck, but they will never see their children because of the way they raise their children. The children do not want to have anything to do with them. So for instance, if we didn't treat our children well, and some of us are too proud to go back and say, we are sorry we made mistakes. If our children say that prayer, will it be a prayer or a curse? Every parent should go back and reflect. And it's deep. It's even frightening. How are you sure you've done the right thing? And some people will refer to the child of, and I know, alayhi salatu wasalam, whose child went with the flood. We don't pray for that, but then you should be able to, as parents, be able to tick the boxes that you did well. You tried to save your children and your family from a fire whose fuel is stones and men. But I really want to emphasize, Prof, that most of our children in this country and in other parts of the world, it is the same adults with whom they are meant to be secured and safe, that abuse them, that harm them, that make them feel the most unsafe. And these are issues we need to look at. I want to also say that the government grants that was taken away in this country for all the youth center left a vacuum. And what's a call for our community? What can we do? Like Brother Wali Hassan referred to Masha as the other time, something to give our children back their self-esteem, their self-worth. We need to look into all of this. And it is only then we can begin to have a conversation. And finally, we need to let our boys and men cry. We always tell our boys that they cannot cry and our men should not cry. Where do they go with that emotion? They begin to go bump, hitting out at people. So we need to create the space for our boys to cry because they have emotion. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wept when he lost his child. When he lost his uncle Hamza, he wept, he was sad. We need to show these emotions because that is what we are. We are human. We cry to Allah. When we hear the Imams reciting the Quran and in Haram, they are crying. We also begin to weep. Those are emotions. Allah has blessed us with them. We must be able to exhibit them correctly and provide the space for our children, our world, and members of the community to show this. And parents, do cry. Show your children that you are sorry and that you're wrong. It's okay. It just makes us get closer, and the conversation can only get better and better. So that when they make that dua, inshallah, it will be a dua and not a curse. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Jazakumullah khair jaza. Dr. Hamza Dawood.
Thank you very much. Good parenting is an investment. And then when we invest, certainly we are going to have a return. So the return of good parenting are in twofold. The peaceful life in this world, and then the dua after us when we are with Allah. So, but you see, I will not put our attention to one important point, and that is, do we have time for our children? Because many people are busy going to work and leaving these children in the environment where they are vulnerable to different ideas. I read a story of a lady in Nigeria yesterday. So this lady was raped by her uncle. So when she was relating her experience, she was blaming his mother.
Her mother.
His mother, her mother was so occupied with work that it is experience. So let parents, the traditional society, they allow the mom particularly to devote their entire time to the rearing of the children. But nowadays, what do? There is competition between father and mother in a massing world. That's take us to where I stand is eating deep into our mentality. So when we devote our time to our children, we are going to reap two rewards. Number one, we are going to have peaceful mind, and then they will pray for us after we have left this world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I mean, going back now to Alaja Mebude for our perspective on that. I mean, before we call it, the day today, Alaja.
Alhamdulillah. I want to quickly buttress on Dr. Hamza's point about fathers and mother with good parenting. And I really want to specify on father. I think we have a lot of married people in the society, but they are usually single mothers. They're married, but they become single mothers because of fathers in absentia. And fathers in absentia because of materialism that Dr. Hamza just stressed. We need to find a way of having our fathers as role model in the house. Father needs to have their presence in the house. Children need to feel their father's presence. Fathers need to cut down on jobs, cut down on hours, shifts, make their shift work, change it around to give time to the family, to become role model to their children, to mentor their boys. A lot of boys are broken within the community because they don't have father figure in the house. They see the mom more than they see the father. There is more that a woman can do. The father's role is very essential in life. So that is going there, and that's talking about that. Now, going further on the role of parents, two things are very, very key in life, in relationship of father and children and mother and the children. I think spiritual relationship is very important in every family. Giving nasiya by mothers and fathers to your children in your own house is more important than what the children is listening to out there. So the spiritual relationship is very key, and the emotional relationship that you need to have with your children. Children need love, care, and attention. You need to stress, I love you, to your children more than anything else. Even between couple, I love you, I love you. It goes a long way. It resonates in your heart. It resonates in your mind. My parents love me. They always stress it to me. My husband loves me. He always stresses to me. Because family is the fabric of the community. We strengthen the community. If family is broken, the community is broken. The town is broken. The city is broken. The country is broken. So we're very important fragments of the community. Family takes a very essential part, and we need to go back to the basic around this. That is another area. Now, when we're talking about parenting and talking about Islam, there's nothing we could do. We couldn't stress it more. When you inculcate Islam in your children, they come back to you. It refers back to you because they know this is what you've taught them with. This is what you've inculcated in them. So it's enshrined and it stays with them. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is an exemplary parent with all his children, especially Fatima. He always cautioned Fatima. Each will face Allah by themselves. We'll face Allah by individuals. We're not going to face Allah as family. We'll face Allah as individuals. But family needs to come together and do things according to the tenets of Islam in order to have good children that will pray for them after their death. It's just law of karma. It's something that is automatic. Like you rightly said, it's something that comes to me naturally. I do it every time for my parents because I was raised by good parents. And I hope everybody, inshallah, have children that will be able to pray for them after their death, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khaira jaza. Thank you so much. I mean, this has been a very, very interesting, discussion. Perhaps maybe we'll go a little bit above time because, I believe there will be questions. We'll take a few questions, before we round up. I really appreciate the panel today. I must make a confession. I believe that this discussion has been very, very sincere because, the panel, I didn't send them advance notice of the questions. The questions, the first time they are hearing about the questions was on this platform. So, that goes to show, so it's not a question they have prepared for. Therefore, their answering is really very, very sincere. And it's very deep. We'll be able to really appreciate them at the end before we hand over. But, control room, are there a few questions? Maybe we can take 2 questions, at most 3 if they are, before we round up for today. Any questions, please?
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum. If you have done all your best by giving your child Islamic education and bring them up in Islamic ways, and all of a sudden they tell you that they don't believe in Islam, what do you do?
That's a very important question. Dr. Hamza, do you want to address it for us briefly?
Thank you very much. That is a very, very difficult question, as we have rightly said. Yes, first of all, you have to ask the questions. What is the contributing factor that led to that? Because if you don't know the reason, I believe a child that is brought up from good home with Islam, it will be very, very difficult for such a child to change all of a sudden. So first of all, we have to address the reason why. If you address the reason why, I remember a few years ago, Prophet Badeni was telling me about one of our young brothers who attended Oxford University. And then this chap began to ask questions attacking the Islam. And the professor sat him down. And then from that interview, the prof was able to come out with reason why. So if somebody, let's talk about a child, even an adult, any Muslim that understands Islam, either the Marxism, atheism, all these things, if you critically examine them, you will see that Islam excels. So if a child all of a sudden changes his mind and say, I am no longer a Muslim, there must be a very critical reason. So that critical reason requires attention. Perhaps if you study that reason, you may know how to approach the problem and change it. But most importantly, we need to pray for our children, because the prayer of parents is very, very important in the life of the children. And again, we have to be good model. So if you are a good model to your child from when he was very young, I can tell you that inshallah it will be very, very difficult for him to say, oh, I don't understand Islam, I'm living Islam. May Allah protect our family.
Thank you so much, for that. Mulka, do you want to add?
Now.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I'd like to add to that.
Very brief.
When a child comes and says that, first of all, well, you do your sujud and go back to your dua and ask your child why. If there are questions, the child because your reaction is very important as well. Some people will say they disown their children. Let us not forget that even when Anobi used Yaqub, his children did what they did to his son. They were still together. He didn't disown them. So you continue to engage with the child. See where they are coming from. Continue to love your children, because what has happened is a test. It could be a test for you. So you don't drive them away. You always leave that line of communication open, and you still have the boundaries that Islam has set for you. You remain the truthful parent that you have been right from the onset, because it can happen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us with all our tests.
Jazakumullahu khairan jaza. And dua is important. If you look at Quran chapter 14, Surah to Ibrahim, ayah 40, and the questioner should look at this, Quran 14:40. There's a dua there. Rabbi ja'alni muqima as-salati wa min zurriyyati rabbana wa taqabbal dua. Do it a lot. Rabbi ja'alni muqima as-salati. Oh Allah, make me he who upholds shemilianti magbenu duro wa min zurriyyati atawa ramadan mi rabbana wa taqabbal dua along badua ti mo se yo. It's very, very useful. It's very, very powerful. I've seen, it works like wonders in relation to offsprings staying in Islam. And as Malika said, we should not feel defeated when this happens. It can happen to anybody. Look at the son of Sayyidina Nur. Some time ago, and people say it publicly. It's not, things can evolve. There's one of the lectures done by Aisha Lemu, the daughter of Sheikh Lemu, when she was talking about problems encountered by children. And she was talking about her own story. He said, we all go through it. He said, even her own children, at one point, she was caught in the web of her child saying he doesn't want to pray, her son, and she handled it, maturely. She didn't blow up. No, she didn't blow up. She handled it, maturely, went into discussions with him. Alhamdulillah, the child, came back. So it's really very, very important. Life can throw so many things at you. It's how we address it. Don't just blow up. And, you have to address it maturely, pray to Allah, and certainly, any further questions, please? We can take one more.
Prof, we have one question, and then we have two people's hands raised.
Okay, let's take them. I seek your indulgence. We'll add 15 minutes today. We stop at 8:45, inshallah. Though Maghrib will start at 8:45 as well, so we will stop soon. Bismillah.
Okay, so I think I'll read the questions first, and then we'll go to the hand raise. I think our panelists are all making good points from a theoretical point of view, but is all this advice useful for all age categories? Some of our so-called children are now adults, and if the foundation was not laid, we need different techniques to get through to them. So I guess the person is asking, what are those techniques that you can suggest? Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Let me take Alaja Mebudi on that one.
Alhamdulillah. I keep stressing positive parenting because I believe so much in it. Children that have become teenagers, especially, needs to be molded in a certain way. We need to discourage negative parenting. There are a lot of negative parenting around, and it brings nothing. It doesn't bring any productivity. Positive parenting brings productivity, or negative parenting brings vice. When I say negative parenting, we need to search ourselves. In a lot of families, there are a lot of conflict. There's argument and shouting and parents exacting authority and being forceful. Children that have become of age, you cannot be forceful to them. You need to find a way of balancing the heart. And I repeat, we have to balance the heart. We have to learn how to negotiate with them. We need to think about the advice of Luqman, radiallahu anhu, to his children. You can find that in chapter 31, verse 12 to 19. The way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala creates Luqman. You know, Luqman is called the wise, Al-Hakim, the wise, because of the way he molded his children, because of the way he advised his child. You need to find the right time to speak to your child. You need to find the right opportunity and be strategic. We're living in the Western world. We cannot be forceful to our children. We need to find a way of negotiating, of collaborating, and finding the balancing heart. These are the strategies. These are the way we will talk to them. We bring out our negotiating skills. We cannot be the parents of the past. The way we were raised is different from the way we have to reach our children in this country. We're living in a global village. So it is very daunting, but at the same time, with a lot of dua, with a lot of positive strategy to bring out good productivity. Inshallah, we will get there. But don't forget, negotiation is the key. Collaboration with your children, you confide in them, you try and show appreciation when they do something good, you show affection at all times to them, you approve them, approve what they do. If they make mistakes, children are born to make mistakes. We as parents have made mistakes. Acknowledge that mistake, but don't drool over that mistake too much. Don't go on and on and on and whine about their mistakes. Those are the things that children don't like, or even teenagers don't like. Accept it, acknowledge it, find a way of moving on from that mistake. Don't dwell on it. Don't dwell too much, but accept your child. Accept them. Appreciate them. Give them attention. Confide in them. When I say confide, I'm not saying give them some things that you shouldn't tell them as parents, but little things, teach them how to confide. If you confide in your children, they will automatically confide in you. Some little practical things. You know what, darling? I have a very difficult day at work today. What about you? How was your college? How was your school today? That is little confidentiality talk that you are giving to your child. You don't say to your child, you know how to do everything. There are times that you have difficulties at work. Confess it, confide it to your child. Oh, so mommy too can have difficulties at work. Okay, so when I have difficulties in school or college, I'll be able to share with my mother and find way forward. Those are the little nitty-gritty that we need to do as parents. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help all parents that are facing challenges with their children.
Very, very beautiful counsel. Let's briefly take those two hands quickly, please.
Alaja Sharif Al-Amin, if you mute yourself, please.
Quick and brief, please.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum, and well done for everything, the speakers and everything. I just wanted to ask this question. In parenting, is it good or Islamic to talk negative about fathers who have abandoned their responsibilities to the children?
Okay, that's a good one. Now let me ask. I won't ask the fathers. Alaja Mebudi has just spoken. Let me ask the other mother, Mulkat. I mean, this happens in real life.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. It's a very good question. Thank you very much, Alaja, for that question. Yeah, it is difficult not to want to talk because we are human beings. It can be daunting on the other parents who is shouldering the responsibility. But it is best not to refer to that parent. It is best you make dua about what you're giving your children, and they see that you're putting every effort on the table and investing in them. Because when they grow up, they will see that the other effort is not there. It's better they see it themselves. And if you can have a conversation with the other person, if you are having conversations, try to encourage them, they shouldn't forget the children, because you see, we do not use our children as pawn. Our children must not be pawns, like somebody has referred to the fact that children they didn't ask to come. And the moment you have them, we have a collective responsibility towards them. So if it's difficult, but it's better for us to caution ourselves and not say better negative about the father, or in the case if it's the mother that is absent, to say bad things about the mother. And moreover, it's also givers. We shouldn't say things that are derogatory, that will make what will our children do about it? It will only make them sad, you know. That's right. I wanted to just add to the other question that was asked before about when the children are now grown, that we are giving advice. Sometimes it is good as parents to say, I'm so sorry. I did this to you when you were growing up. I didn't know any better. I thought I was doing the best with you. Can we talk about it? I would have loved to do it differently. When we have that conversation with our children who are now adults, they will understand, inshallah, bismillah. We should always be truthful and be honest with what we do. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khairan jaza. Thank you so much, for those brilliant answers. Any other one more? The other hand raised.
Grandma Elias, please unmute yourself.
Briefly, please.
Am I the one that's frozen?
No, she's not frozen. Laja needs to unmute herself. Or if you can unmute her.
I'm just trying to do that.
Okay,
yeah,
Laja.
Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah. Ẹ̀kọ́ àtàárọ̀ Ọlọ́run kó gbà fún wa, kó fọ̀nà hàn wá o. Gbogbo lecture tẹ́ ṣe lénìí dédé gbogbo nǹkan tó ń lọ lágbàáyé all over the world. Kò ń ṣe Muslim nìkan o, àti Christian náà. But olórí ẹ̀ jùlọ ni pé àdúà, ká máa ṣàdúrà fúnra wa, ká máa ṣe fáwọn ọmọ. Àtẹ̀ntàmọ̀ k'Ọlọ́run fọ̀nà hàn wá, kó dẹ̀ ṣe dáadáa ọwọ́ ẹ̀ fún wa. Torí wà lè àṣírí la wà, k'Ọlọ́run ṣàánú fún wa. Salamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I ended on a very, very good point. Dua, Muslims are dua sayful mu'min. Dua is the sword of the believer. We should pray for our children. We should pray for our partners. And inshallah, things might be difficult, but if you pray sincerely, in relation to our children, Allah will make things easy. We thank you so much, all our members of the panel. You've really done brilliantly. As I said, I believe your answers have been very, very sincere, because we just gave you a general topic of this is what we're going to discuss today. The questions that I'll be putting forward never disclosed to anyone. So you've done really very well. Thank you so much. May Allah put this in your mizan al-khair. I believe you have all learned. And all those who raise questions, important questions as well. Jazakumullahu khair jaza. May Allah continue to strengthen every one of us. May Allah continue to protect our children and make them our ayun. And may Allah help us in raising them, inshallah ta'ala. And wherever we have made mistakes, may Allah forgive us and put us on the right path, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khair jaza. Our OE who believe today is in Surah At-Tahrim, the ayah that we've actually mentioned. Surah At-Tahrim, ayah, Quran 66, verse 6. Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa alaykum nara. O ye who believe, protect yourselves and your family from the hellfire, which waquduha an-nas wal hijara. That is, the fuel of that fire will be stones and human beings. So Allah is commanding us to protect ourselves and our family, which includes our children, from entering hellfire. May Allah make it easy for us to be able to do that. Jazakumullahu khaira jaza. Until we meet next week, inshallah, I'll hand over back to Alaja Fadila Alabi to sign us off. Jazakumullahu khaira.
Jazakumullahu khairan to all our panelists today. It's been a thought-provoking topic that you have discussed. I pray that Allah will make all your discussions beneficial knowledge to all of us. So take home is that we should please endeavor to lower our egos as parents. If we see that we have offended our children, we should learn and try to apologize, make them see a reason why we did what we did. And please practice more positive parenting than negative parenting. I'll make it easy for us. Parenting, like we say, no one gets A1 in parenting. It's everybody's business. So until we see you next week, I want to remind you of our topics again. Next week, in fact, the whole of this month, we're going to have panel of discussion. So it's going to be discussion on different topics. So we're going to bring panels. And then the youth camp, please, between 20th and 23rd of this month, register your word. It's a very good experience that they always remember. We've had feedbacks and they've always been positive feedback. So until we see you again next week, I say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Just under 60 seconds, I'm going to tell you why investing in this opportunity will change your life. Are you ready? Start the clock. Over 20 years ago, a group of believers acquired a derelict pub slap bang in the center of the Old Kent Road. As we've grown, so has our need for space. And we are embarking upon the journey of a lifetime to extend the good work of this masjid. And we need you to join us on this journey. Let me remind you of Allah's promise. Whoever builds a mosque for the sake of Allah, Allah will build for him a house in paradise. And it doesn't stop there. The masjid that we build will continue to give you rewards for as long as it remains standing, perhaps decades after you pass away. Think about all the people who attend the mosque to pray 5 times a day, every single day of the year. The Jummah service that is attended by hundreds of people, the hundreds of youngsters learning how to recite the Quran, and your fellow brothers and sisters breaking their fast in the month of Ramadan, right here in this masjid. Inshallah, you'll get a slice of the reward. All of these and more coming straight to your scale of good deeds. So what are you waiting for? Help us build this masjid. Sponsor a prayer space and get your friends, neighbors and loved ones to sponsor one too. Or even better, get together and sponsor a whole saf. And inshallah, watch how Allah elevates you in this life and the next.
يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان إنه كان